Welcome everyone to the Elephants on Business podcast, improving your small business journey one episode at a time. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about debt and how it can drastically change your small business. G'day, Oz.
It's great to be back.
Obviously, being a finance broker, debt is something I deal with every single day.
Yep.
And Oz, obviously having a lot of clients in accounting, we see the pros and cons of having debt inside your business. And it's a fantastic thing. I always say debt is an accelerant to your business. It can help you ramp up, scale up, grow drastically. But it's really important to understand what debt is, the different types of debt, and also the risks that come with it.
Yeah, as you said, I think it can be a great blessing to your business, and it can accelerate. But obviously, we've got the four types of main debt here that relate to small businesses and businesses that want to grow and hopefully one day become medium, large businesses. And the first one here was the working capital for inventory and debtors, right? So this
type of debt
at times.
This type of debt is really common for like inventory, supply chain, logistics, businesses that have a lot of debtors, a lot of creditors, and a lot of inventory. Yep. Working capital essentially helps you solve the gap between when you collect money from people and when you have to pay it out. And most businesses, and also, buying and holding stock and inventory. So working capital is just a fancy word to manage the loss in terms of cash flow when you're buying and paying for things in your business.
Yeah, it's basically correcting that dip of cash flow, right?
Yep.
So when you collect and you have to buy inventory, instead of it going down to very minimal levels, you can rely on the debt to acquire and then bring in cash flow from the new sales. And hopefully then you're not really going through large waves of dips, right?
And at the same time, if you have payment terms you have to offer, and generally for growing businesses, as you get bigger and bigger debtors or customers, sometimes your power to negotiate with them drops lower and lower. You always hear stories of negotiating with Woolworths and Bunnings is just impossible. So you have to give all this work, do all this stuff, and you get paid sometimes a year away. Working capital helps solves that problem. And generally working capital is either things like an overdraft. People obviously use credit cards, which I'm not a big fan of. People get small term loans that help them kind of wash and rinse and recycle their business. Yeah,
so it's really one of those short-term debts
very,
that you
short-term.
use and you repay quickly and then you use again. So it's great. So and the next one here that we have on our list is debt to acquire businesses, right? So a lot of businesses might have a starting point and then they want to go and acquire something else, right?
And this one I think is one of the biggest booms that'll happen over the next 10 years. As the baby boomer generation kind of retires, I think there'll be a lot of amazing businesses up for sale.
Yeah.
And obviously, unless you've been very diligent in saving for a long, long time, most people go to a bank and source debt to buy that business. So Oz is selling a business for 100 grand. I go and get a loan to buy Oz's business, and the bank is comfortable with giving me that loan because I'll be taking over Oz's business. I'll be taking over his cash flow, his customer list, whatever it might be. Acquisition debt is one of the fastest ways to grow your business. Or if you've got zero, sometimes buying an established business with an infrastructure and a client base and improving it might be the best course of action.
And that's one that we've used personally as well ourselves. We've acquired obviously an accounting firm and put in some money, and then obviously the rest was funded by the bank. And then it just, as you said, gets you the keys and off and running. It's a great piece of tool that you can use to accelerate your business journey. So the next one there, which is another common one, is asset finance for plant and equipment. So this one here is very common in the small business world. A lot of businesses need to buy certain equipment at the start, maybe to start off a business, and it's one that a lot use, right?
And especially when the starting point of your business, you don't want to have saved for a couple of years, you're ready to start your business, and then you have to drain all your money to zero before you start.
And then you're stressed out because it's just I need to make money to pay the
bills and all that kind of stuff. So generally people use asset finance for fit outs. So it's big for cafes, for vans, for logistics, for tools, for tradies,
excavators, for building industry and stuff like that.
It's really when a bank gives you money to go and buy that asset, just like you would a car. It's really important to use asset finance to help you get all the tools and the items that are needed to start your business and maybe start on the right foot. And then obviously the loan is backed against that asset.
Yeah.
So it's usually backed against a VIN number for a car, a VIN number for a digger or a truck or a trailer. It's backed against these kind of cold storage or ovens or whatever it might be for your cafe. So asset finance is all about financing the asset, so then you can start using it without having to go and spend 20 grand to fit out your cafe or 100 grand.
Yeah, and this one's quite attractive. As you said, it's generally done at the start, and then you'll know what your monthly repayments are.
Yeah.
And then it's just about, executing on that and making sure you can generate the revenue to cover that.
The best thing about asset finance, I always think about gyms when I think about asset finance. Like, you walk into a gym, a treadmill's 20 grand, there's like 50 there. Like, you got to have a lot of money.
Yeah.
But if you finance it and the monthly repayment is 5 grand, whatever the number might be, at least geez, if I get X many customers, or I sell X much food, at least you know that if I get to that level, I'm break even and the doors stay open.
Yep, and then you're basically just paying off the assets, and then eventually when you pay it off, it's that monthly repayment goes down. And then the next one that we have, that once again, small businesses do tend to use is property finance to buy, commercial properties like offices, warehouses, and things of that nature.
This generally happens in the mid stage of your small business or as you're growing. Most people don't generally go and buy a commercial factory straight away, but it's a really good source of paying yourself the rent and having full control of fitting out, adjusting, putting up signs. Sometimes I always say, property, and bias as we are, property is a great asset in the long run. Your business is a great asset in the long run, and they're completely different risks. So if you can buy the factory that you're working in or buy the office that you're in and pay yourself rent, it's a very nice safeguard to your business. But again, it is debt that you're taking out, which starts to, suck away your business cash flow.
The cash flow. We might have a later episode on that, on the accounting side, like how to structure where to buy that particular property, because there is a couple of options. You can buy it in your name, a trust, self-managed super fund, which is a common one, because then you're not really losing too much cash flow out of your personal. Yeah. And you've got that covered in the SMSF. But that's probably
those are the main four, right? Yeah. Working capital, acquisition, asset finance, and property finance that you generally see. There's obviously all these other variants around it, but they're the key ones that you can take out to really kickstart your business. And if you went through all of them, and we talk about the next part of this discussion is the main pros of taking out debt. It's really the acceleration to do things. So working capital allows you to buy inventory earlier, allows you to finance your debtors. Acquisition allows you to go and buy a business. So it really accelerates.
Day one, you start.
Asset finance allows you to start the cafe without saving 100 grand. It allows you to fit out your office. And obviously property allows you to buy a property and own it straight away and pay it off
versus renting it, and then and then obviously as you own that property, you hopefully get some capital gains along the way, and it works quite well. Works for to your
favor, but like anything in life, if you try and accelerate something in life, just like you're trying to accelerate your car and you really put the pedal down, risks.
Something can blow up.
Something can blow up, and it's really, really important to monitor that. So the first one of the kind of pro side of things is just acceleration. If you're aggressive, if you know what you're doing and you feel like you're ready to go, getting debt, I think, is a fantastic way rather than just waiting to save. If you back yourself, then I would say understand the risks, but go for it. I'm a big believer in debt.
Even waiting to save, like there's an opportunity cost in that in itself as well. Like if it takes you 3-5 years to save, there's the opportunity cost of you starting that business in year, let's say 0 or 1, and then having the 3 or 5 year journey. It's a great little pro. And then the next one there is obviously you get another pro is a large lump sum, and it gives you a lot of control to do what you want to do with that particular cash injection, I guess.
And the large lump sum can be looked at two ways. One, it can be looked as you get a loan, you get some money, but then generally you have to go and buy something. The benefit of getting money from a debt is also your cash is not depleted. So if you've saved 100 grand to start your business and you're like, I can go buy 3 vans, or I can go fit out my office or my cafe. If you go and get debt and you use 100 grand loan to pay for it, you are starting your business with another 100 grand cash in your bank.
The original.
It can solve a lot of problems. You don't know what business holds. It can solve to pay wages. It can solve to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer of the fact that business is just a bit of a journey. Like the first 6 months is generally up, down, left, right. That cash in your bank, it's much safer. Well,
security, yeah.
Security. I feel better. I feel better if I had $100,000 loan and $100,000 cash, or I had no loan and no cash. I would take the $100,000 loan, $100,000 cash.
Yeah, of course. I would take the same as well. You know, like you would never put yourself in that position where you've depleted all your cash to start a business, and then your back is right against the wall, trying to, you know,
claw your way out.
You know, and then you're going to stress about paying rent, wages, as you said. So, you know, you would always probably opt to take that position where there's 100 cash, 100,000 of debt. You know what your monthly repayments are like, and at least you've got the back end security of the 100,000 cash that you've got on hand to run your business for that first 1-2 years, especially the first year of business. It can be quite tough.
And do you see through your clients that people are of the same view? They would prefer to use the bank's money to go and do things and keep their cash?
Absolutely. That's one of the main things that, you know, a lot of our tradie clients will do. So, you know, they'll start their journey. You know, they've done maybe an apprenticeship, they've become fully qualified, and they want to start their own business. Most of the time, you know, they'll acquire some tools along the way, and they've got an ample amount of tools. But what they're lacking is maybe, you know, a van or a trailer or a ute, and, you know, those resources, because maybe they had a company car in the previous job, so they probably didn't invest in
or there were tools available on the site that they could use and pick up.
Exactly. So, you know, they would tend to potentially purchase, like, you know, that ute or a van, and, you know, stock it up with their tools. And they'll always opt to potentially use that finance to acquire that. And then, as you said, they have the cash ready on the side to use it to fund the business, to buy materials, you know, pay some wages or pay contractors, and then off and running they go, you know. There is some clients that might use like a little bit of a hybrid model where they put in a little bit of a deposit.
Yeah,
so then
absolutely.
the debt is not as large, and then the monthly repayments are a little bit lower. But that's just a very small example of a very small client. You know?
And you have to remember, a bank is not going to just give you free money. Some instance, especially when you're buying a business, a bank will give you 60%. You have to tip in 40% cash. So they are protecting you. So you will have to use a bit of your money through the journey, but debt can just, like I said, accelerate to get you there, or like keep you a bit safe by keeping liquid funds on side. So that's something to be really, really mindful of.
Yep.
And the last pro, which people don't really talk about, is just that
ownership, right?
You own it. Like if you buy the property, it's yours. You buy the business, it's yours. You don't have to rent. You don't have to lease. You don't have to, you know, not feel like you have full control. Ownership is the reason that you probably started your business, is to have control and feel like it. And if you're buying assets in your business, as long as they're productive assets, so tools are productive, they help and go get revenue. Your warehouse is storing whatever your business might store. You're buying vans, it helps you transport and earn revenue. Good assets help you generate income off those assets, like the return on asset is really important, and you own that asset. So it's on you to make it work. And like, you know, you don't really realize it, but like when you're buying assets for your business, you own those tools. There are value to that. It helps you grow. So if you understand that debt can help you own things, yes, like it's yours, but you got to pay a bank loan back. As long as you understand that you own the asset, it's on you to take a return from it. Like that's the third biggest pro, I think, of debt.
Yeah.
Like, you own the property earlier, you get the growth.
Yeah, making sure you're utilizing that asset as effectively as you can is probably an important point there as well. So I think that pretty much summarizes all the main pros of debt, right, within small business.
Now onto the bad stuff.
On to the bad stuff, right, the cons. So, you know, the cons, the first one that we have on our list is
the repayment.
The repayments that it has to your cash flow, right? So, you know, obviously, you know what that repayment is. Yeah. But, you know, there is obviously that monthly repayment, and it can be there, you know, maybe for 10 years, 5 years, you know,
30 years,
depending on like the type of finance or debt that you are acquiring, that's locked in for that long, right? So,
and that is the biggest strain, the biggest failure of small business is not how good's your idea and all this kind of stuff. Really, generally the biggest failure of small business is the cash flow.
Yeah.
The months where you're a bit quiet, you don't have the money, and it hurts. And albeit debt can be a great thing, like I said, an accelerant, you have that monthly repayment forever and a day until that debt's gone. And like I said, generally, like your working capital debt is monthly. You have to clean it down. Your acquisition of a business debt is you have to got to make a monthly repayment, and that doesn't change. You can't like, oh, I might skip that, or I might pause that. If you can't afford it, that's a massive problem. You're either not taking a wage or going to have to skimp on other parts of your business to pay that. Essentially, the debt repayment is coming out monthly no matter what.
Yeah.
And that flows on to the next problem is debt can make you feel like you're on top of the world. It can make you feel like you've got $1 million to spend, or you've got 500 grand. The bank has given you $2 million.
Yeah, so you've got a large lump sum capital, and then what do you typically want to do? So you probably go out there and
spend it,
overspend on certain things, right?
The biggest issue I found with debt, and it's same on the finance for your house side, if a bank gives you $1 million or allows you to get $2 million, most people will go and spend the full amount.
Yeah.
And when you're buying a property, that's okay. Like, it's okay because you got that asset for 30 years. When you're doing other things in your business, be really mindful that just because a bank gives you a certain amount, try and actually budget. Try and actually spend accordingly. Don't overspend. Don't overspend your debt, because that's a huge problem.
I think you still got to be conscious of what you're spending that money on. As you said, if you're fitting out maybe a gym, instead of buying 10 fancy treadmills, if you can buy 15 medium versions, then it's like maybe you have a little bit more equipment for your members and they feel a little bit more attached to the gym because there's availability of that equipment. So, don't fall into the trap of going out there and buying the most expensive things. And then you're left with a large bill of loans and all this expensive stuff.
And I really think that, we're on social media right now trying to promote our business, but I think social media makes you feel like you have to be A grade day one. And in some industries you might. Like, I walk into these big box gyms and there's like 10,000 equipments. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't start somewhere with a small gym and grow. It's okay. Just because the bank gives you a whole bunch of money, be very mindful that you have to pay it back someday. Yeah. And if you're spending 2 times more on a factory, are you going to get 2 times more the revenue? And generally, it's probably not the case. So you have to be very careful of that concept of return on asset. You're buying the asset. If you're going to spend 2 times more, am I going to get 2 times more the rent? Or I'm going to spend 10 grand on a laptop versus a 5 grand laptop at the start of your business. Is that laptop going to give me 2 times more revenue or speed or productivity? Generally not at the start. So you have to be very careful of not taking that money and going, I got plenty to play with, let's go to town. Which is real hard because, I don't know about you guys, when you start a business, you're excited as ever.
Yeah, I know.
You're pumped.
You're pumped, You've told all your friends and, you're ready to go. You're starting off that new journey. It's pretty hard sometimes to not reel it back and go, hang on, let me actually think about,
It's real hard to be a tight ass. Let's just say it, right? It's real hard to be a tight ass when you have free money chucked at you. And in the last 5 years, before these crazy interest rates, money was free.
Yes, very true.
Which flows on to our final point, which is the terms. Really understanding the terms from your bank is pivotal, because a lot of people, in my opinion, over the last 5 years went and got a whole bunch of debt where interest rates were 2%. Now they're 6, going to 7, maybe 8, and not realizing my repayment has doubled, my cash flow's doubled, or I didn't think about principal and interest and interest only. I didn't think about that.
Which can be a big one, that principal interest versus interest only, right? Enormous. So it comes back to that first point that we raised. It's got the risk of affecting cash flow, especially if you've got an interest only loan and it's probably, let's say, for the first 3 years interest only.
Disaster.
You can get ahead of yourself in a sense and go, well, I've got the repayments covered. It's no issue at all.
You forget.
But you're not.
When that bomb comes, when the bomb of principal and interest comes, it's disastrous, especially when you might get a little bit lazy. Debt can make you lazy. Because why would I save? I can just go and borrow. Why would I save for deposit? I can just go and do this. Why would I chase that debtor down? Because, I just got finance, so it'll solve itself. in business, it's a game of minutia profit. Push the pace and collect the money, pay back the debt. And like it's spot on, right? The terms of interest only is my biggest fear for business owners. Interest only is great at the start. It helps you manage cash flow, but you can definitely forget that you have to pay this loan back. You get $1 million loan. When it turns principal and interest, it's $100,000 a year. And unfortunately, with business loans, generally the term of the loan
it's very short. Right?
We're talking 1 year for working capital, or 1 month sometimes. Acquisition of a business is usually 3 years. You buy a business for $1 million, $333,000 a year needs to be paid. I was just smiling
because very stressful at those times when that does turn on. And sometimes the solution for small businesses is like, I'll try and refinance, but that can come with other issues, right?
That game has changed now, and you have to be very mindful of what you're doing with your money. The first course is obviously to pay yourself, take care of your staff, pay your ATO debts. They're normal things you have to do. Get stock in, but don't ever forget that you have to pay that debt back. The quicker you clear the debt back, the better. Or obviously, like I said, my final point is around ensuring you have a plan for that debt. Actually going, before I sign that paper for that $1 million, what's my plan?
What am I actually
going to do? I'm going to pay it back, or I'm going to save the business, or when it gets to this profit level, I'm going to start paying the debt back.
We also had that option when we acquired the business as well. They said interest only versus principal.
What'd you take?
We took P&I just because I knew I just wanted to pay it down and have the cash flow locked away, and we know what's going to happen each month, and at least the debt gets paid down, rather than having that false sense of security of taking the interest only option and paying a couple $100 or a month, and you're like, oh yeah, great.
You get lazy, right? You forget, and it's very different to property debt. Sadly, you can overspend a little bit on property because you're buying this thing for 30 years, and generally it'll solve itself. But your business value, your asset finance, your cars, your tools actually go down in value. So you actually actively have to be pushing yourself to pay it back. And that's the final thing I think Oz and I will leave in this episode. A debt plan is not a complex thing. It can be simply just a sentence that says, once I get to $100,000 profit, I'm going to start paying it back. Or I'm going to save in a bank account as if I'm paying it back. Or once the tools are done, I'm going to sell them and reuse them, or whatever it might be. It can just be a simple sentence. It can be a complex financial model, but generally a simple sentence works. When I get to this, I'm going to start paying.
Yeah, exactly.
And just remember, like everything, a bank is not your friend. They're earning interest off you. They want you to have this loan forever and a day. But the best thing for your equity position, the value of your business, your kind of future retirement plan, clear debt as soon as possible.
Yeah, great.
That's amazing. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. You take care.
Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye.